record this.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, does a message pop up?
Yeah, it's good, Maggie. Yep.
Okay. You're good to go. Sorry. Yeah. Lauren, you can send people in.
Okay, got it.
Lauren, Kai, are we ready to admit everyone?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I just need the cue. Like once we have most people in, just tell me when to start and then I'll start. I just don't want to start without everyone in, but yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, sounds good. We're gonna admit everyone then. Are we ready?
Yep, perfect. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I think we have a lot of you in here, so we're going to get started. It's around 6:30. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the first official event of Business Week 2021. Business Week has been a staple of the College of Business for 42 years, providing students with the knowledge and resources to be productive business professionals. This year, we have created an inaugural Diversity and Inclusion Committee dedicated to helping students develop intercultural awareness and foster an inclusive environment for their peers at Illinois State and long into their careers. We know that Business Week looks a little bit different this year. We're all on Zoom, but we are still committed to providing you all with a beneficial experience that will stay with you for years to come. Tonight, we are so excited to welcome you to the Crown Act and Natural Hair in the Workplace panel, where we will be discussing the Crown Act and addressing the biases associated with cultural hairstyles in the workplace. My name is Lauren O'Donnell, and I am one of the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinators.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kai Johnson, and I'm one of the other Diversity and Inclusion Coordinators.
As a reminder, please keep your mics muted the entire time the panelists are speaking. Have your camera on. We would love to see your beautiful faces, and be attentive and respectful to our panelists and all attendees. Thank you. We will have an audience Q&A portion later on, so you can think of your questions during the panel. And Kai will now discuss the Crown Act.
So the Crown Act, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, is a law that prohibits race-based hair discrimination, which is the denial of employment and educational opportunities because of hair texture or protective hairstyles. These include braids, locks, twists, or Bantu knots. There are 7 US states where the Crown Act is law, but Illinois is actually not one of them. The Crown Act prohibits discrimination based on hairstyles by extending statutory protections based on race to hair texture and protective styles in state employment, housing, and education codes. And now we will move on to introduce the panelists. Our first panelist, Dr. Hicks, is the Assistant to the Dean for Student Services. Dr. Hicks oversees undergraduate recruitment, orientation, and special events in the College of Business. Dr. Hicks currently holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from Bowling Green State University, and in her spare time, she enjoys personal finance, yoga, and spending time with her family. Shavonda Mitchom serves as the Chief Financial and Administrative Officer for Hoyleton Youth and Family Services. Ms. Mitchom is an alum of Illinois State University, having obtained a bachelor's degree in economics with minors in mathematics and business administration. She enjoys teaching others about finance, spending time with family, and promoting natural hair to boost self-love and confidence in African-American women and girls. Destinee Guice is a second-year communication studies major with a focus in language and knowledge construction, African-American rhetoric, and racial injustices. Upon graduating this May, Destinee will be employed as a diversity and inclusion trainer. Her daily mantra is create your dream life. We are so excited to have these three ladies with us tonight, and now we will start our questions for the panelists. So our first question for tonight is, Black women are 1.5 times more likely to be sent home from the workplace because of their hair. Black women are 80% more likely to agree with the statement, I have to change my hair from its natural state to fit in at the office. Can you all explain in your own words how this discrimination negatively impacts Black women and even Black men in the workforce?
I can start. So when we say things like, I have to change my hair from its original form to fit in, we begin to internalize this form of systematic racism as a common and regular function of society. And by internalize, I mean that we begin to physically and psychologically practice this unconsciously. Considering that hair discrimination is oppression, we have no room within society to internalize oppression if we want to see change. And I think something that is important to note is that the standard of professionalism is relative to the white standard. And what I mean by that is that all other races are compared to white Americans. So internalizing the notion that you need to change your hair to fit into the workplace begins to teach self-hate, because it begins to teach that there's something wrong with the way that your hair grows. So yeah, that's the answer I have.
And just to piggyback off of that, I mean, in the workplace, it results in the employee, feeling undervalued, not as part of the team. And when you think about, your job on a daily basis, you spend more than 70% of your waking hours in the workplace. And so to be in that environment where you're feeling demoralized, you don't feel like you belong, as Destinee stated, it greatly impacts your self-confidence and your self-esteem, and it results in, you feeling less valued and you being less productive as an employee, which overall affects the entire organization, because the company is losing creativity, someone that can come to the table and provide diverse input and contribute in a more well-rounded manner. So just overall, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree. It's pretty much telling me that I can't show up to work as my authentic self on, how I wake up and how I decide to style my hair or come to work. So then that makes me question, okay, if my hair is an issue, then there's probably other issues about my Blackness that may be an issue that doesn't fit into this white space. And that may be, so then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the way I talk, or how long my nails are, or how long my eyelashes are, or, there's all these other things that I'm beginning to question, because, you've already questioned my authenticity with my hair. Then, I'm starting to think about other things. And like Shavonda said, then that takes away from my productivity. I'm worried about how I'm showing up when I could be worried about what you really should be judging me on is how I'm performing in my job. So yeah.
Great, thank you all for those answers. Now for the second question, Did you always feel comfortable with wearing your natural hair to work? If not, what was that journey like when you first started? And whoever would like to start.
I can start. Not at all. I did not feel comfortable wearing my natural hair for a very long time. For me, I stopped using relaxers in like 2013, 2014. However, I continued to straighten my hair because I felt that, when you Google like professional hairstyles in the workplace, natural hairstyles is not a style that appeared. And so because of questions I received, I would say I never experienced like any direct discrimination. However, just questions such as, is that really your hair? Can I touch your hair? Why do you change your hairstyle so often? I really like your hair when it's straight. Those questions just made the environment uncomfortable, where I felt when I'm showing up to a meeting, to discuss something of extreme importance, the focus is on me and my appearance and how I styled my hair for that day. And so it really took some time for me to get over that in the workplace and to feel more comfortable and, to just stand up and be strong and be my authentic self. As Dr. Hicks stated, you cannot contribute effectively, you cannot be authentic. It's difficult to contribute in that type of environment. And so, along the way, I just started to completely, wear my hair in a natural state. So it's been about 2 years now. It even resulted in me starting like a natural hair site, just discussing it, just because I knew that there were other women experiencing some of the same feelings and experiences in the workplace. And I even, just started to reach out to colleagues in the workplace, non-Black colleagues, and have conversations about how some of the questions made me feel, and maybe others as well in the workplace. And I think it's just that education that's key, which can happen in certain environments, but not all.
So I went natural in 2010. And that was the year that I started working at Illinois State. My first job at Illinois State was actually in diversity advocacy, which is now the Multicultural Center. So stepping into that space, I did not have any reservations wearing my natural hair. I mean, I worked in a place that supported and promoted diversity. I had, I was surrounded around diversity staff. I just thought that it would be very counterintuitive for me to be judged with my natural hair in that space. But I will say, when I interviewed for the position in the College of Business, let me go back. The natural hair I'm not so hung up on walking into spaces with my natural hair. What I personally get hung up on is that I like to change my hair a lot. So I wear wigs, I wear weaves, braids. I've worn blue hair, blonde hair, so that's where kind of I get caught up on. So it's just like, I'm thinking about, okay, my hair, I had on a wig. I wore a wig for my interview in the College of Business. And then I remember thinking that on the first day of work, I was going to make sure I wear my hair big and natural, because if I start off, if I'm introduced and my hair is big and natural, it's just like, that's how you know me, that's how you met me. But if I unleash it later, it becomes like a big deal. So I like to unleash the mane initially, and then later is not really a point of conversation, because it's like the first day you met me, she had natural hair. Oh, that's how her hair is. So yeah, it wasn't, I really didn't think about it until I got to the College of Business role. And I think, for one, just leaving diversity advocacy, going to another space, but then also, the students dress up in the College of Business. There's this professionalism about the College of Business of, so buttoned up. And, I just didn't know how I would be perceived going to the College of Business, but I figured I was going to be myself regardless. So day one, I'm unleashing the mane.
So for me, I only have ever known natural hair. I've never had a perm or anything, or a relaxer or anything. So yeah, natural hair is all I really know. If I think about it, once I got into more professional work arenas like Illinois State University versus like restaurant jobs and like apparel jobs and things like that, I kind of adopted this mindset as this is just authentically me because this has been authentically me my whole entire life. And I still carry that mindset with me today in terms of the confidence that I have with walking in with my natural hair in different settings. It's just a part of me. And if this part of me is not accepted already, then that's okay because that's just not a space for me then.
Yes, thank you guys for your answers. Those were great. So our third question is, can you explain how styles such as braids or twists can protect your hair? And do you have a favorite protective hairstyle? So whoever wants to start can go.
I guess I can start for this one. So the protective hairstyle. So I will say with natural hair, okay, let's go back to the basics. There are different types of natural hair. Okay, there's this number system that's often used in the natural hair community. You're either type 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's a hair typing system. Generally, natural hair, specifically with Black women, we're looking at type 3 or type 4 hair. I'm trying to think who would be. I can't even give you any examples of like a type 3 or type 4, but so for type 4 hair, it's very sensitive, it's very fragile, and it loses moisture quickly. So wearing a protective style means pretty much making sure that your ends are tucked in, covered, or wrapped around each other. So my hair is in a bun right now, meaning my ends are tucked in, they're bobby pinned in. So this would be considered a protective style. If I wear my hair in braids, a lot of times women who wear braids, they have extensions on the braid and extended hair extended to the braid or attached to the braid, protecting the ends. Our hair has to compete with the environment, and it's so important in order to retain length and for your hair to grow and not break off. You need to keep the ends moisturized at all times. And it gets very difficult in the fall and winter months to do that because the air is so dry. You don't want to leave the house with your hair wet. So generally in the wintertime, that's when I like to wear my protective styles. So, and also I wear a lot of hats in the winter, and even the wool from your hat can break off your hair. And just trying to fit my natural, my natural hair under a hat is just difficult. So it's just a lot easier for me to just wear wigs. I normally wear wigs in the wintertime. So that's like my go-to. I like the lace fronts or the U-part wigs. I don't even know if y'all know what that is, but the ones Beyonce wear. But yeah, so that's typically how I would wear my hair in the wintertime. And then in the summer, the wigs are just too much. It's too hot. And I don't have to compete with the environment because it's warm, the moisture is there, so I can wear my hair out and not have to worry so much about breakage. But yeah, my favorite protective hairstyle would be wigs.
For me, I think my favorite protective hairstyle is braids. I just love me some braids. Every time I can get some braids, I'm going to wear some braids. I think that Dr. Hicks explained it really well, protective styles and protecting your ends really well. The only thing that I can think of to add is that I really like that protective styles like the buns and the braids and the wigs that she mentioned allows us to keep our hands out of our hair. So it allows for low manipulation, and low manipulation allows your hair to grow rather than breaking off. So that's something that I really appreciate about my favorite protective hairstyle, braids. I love that it keeps my hair from breaking off.
And the only thing I'll add is that my favorite protective hairstyle I would say, is 2-strand twists, which are just, you just take an individual piece of hair and you're literally twisting it around each other. And that's typically what I use most often. But normally this is me, or I wear a lot of twist outs, which is where I take my 2-strand twist and then untwist them and just wear it out in full. And that's typically what I wear.
Yes, thank you all. That was very educational. And I love in the chat, we're seeing people like, yes, or like, great question. So I love the enthusiasm there. So the next question is, more influential Black figures and celebrities have begun to embrace their natural hair over the last few years, and it has inspired more Black men and women to request natural hairstyles at the salon. With natural hair being represented by respected public figures, does that improve public appreciation and help change perceptions about natural hairstyles?
I think that the increased desire to embrace natural hair does help improve public appreciation and change the perception. I think that it welcomes natural hair into the cultural conversation in spaces that are predominantly white, however, they seek to foster a culturally competent environment. So some of those spaces that I can think about are like classrooms, workplaces, diversity trainings, resident halls, registered student organizations. Those are predominantly white spaces that often do seek to foster culturally competent environment. And it welcomes, the public appearance welcomes natural hair into the cultural conversation, and it also promotes dialogue. So some of the things that dialogue does is that it builds confidence in discussing sensitive topics. Dialogue also allows for the status quo to be challenged. And as just citizens in general, it's common for us to internalize the dominant views of society. So dialoguing about sensitive topics allows us to challenge the status quo to create change. And it also allows us to make others aware of their privilege and to allow hair discrimination to be vocalized as a form of oppression as well. And it can cover the magnitude of racial injustices. So to show that racial injustices is not just limited to what we already understand for them to be, it's expansive of so much more.
So for our next question, yeah, thank you, Destinee, for answering. That was a really good explanation. With having more representation of natural hair in the workplace or even in the world today, do you think it has an impact or inspires younger Black children?
I'll take this one. Absolutely, it does. And I would just speak for me personally. Like, I have a younger daughter she's 8 years old, and she attends elementary school in a predominantly white location. She's spent the past like 2 or 3 years as the only Black student in her classroom. And she has come home on a number of occasions and said, "Mommy, I want my hair, to look like my classmates." And, she's even gotten upset about the way I've styled her hair because she wants to be able to fit in her classroom and look like her peers. And so, I mean, I definitely, this exposure to natural hair, just the change that I have made, within the past 2-3 years of myself, like embracing and wearing my natural hair more often. And she has older sisters that she can see, and, in the media, there's now more, Black authored books and, even in Disney movies and shows, the depiction of, Black women and Black young girls, displaying their natural hair, I mean, has absolutely inspired the younger generation. And I mean, I'm so grateful that, for her, she will not have the struggles, and the younger generation does not have the struggles that I may have experienced, in some of my workspaces. So it's great.
Yeah, I think representation definitely matters, and not just natural hair, but again, the natural hair types that are being represented. I would classify myself as having type 4 hair, and generally type 4 hair isn't hair that's generally glorified, isn't considered, the most beautiful. depending on who you ask, but generally type 4 hair isn't glorified, isn't celebrated as much than someone with type 3 hair. So I do think the more people who wear their hair, the more variety we see, the more normalized it can be, and the more accepting it will be. So when kids or small children see themselves, you know, they can see themselves like, oh, she has hair like me. Not just that she has natural hair, but she actually has type 4 hair like me. You know, that makes a difference. I remember as a little girl, my hair was natural and I wore my hair like in little pigtails or 2-strand twist, little ponytails with barrettes. And my mother's hair was relaxed. She had a perm. She wore her hair straight all the time. And I would always ask, you know, I want a perm like you. You know, I want to wear my hair like you. And I think if my mom probably would have wore her natural hair more, I probably would have embraced my natural hair more. But I wanted to be just like my mom. I wanted to paint my nails like her. I wanted to wear my hair like her. I wanted to wear her high heels. I wanted to do everything she wanted to do. So yeah, I think if we see more women, and then on top of that, I didn't see a lot of grown-ups with natural hair. I only saw children with natural hair. And even some of my classmates had relaxers. So it was just kind of like, well, I want a relaxer. And I think children, you know, you're often just trying to fit in when you're a child. You're often just trying to find yourself and imitate others. That's very much a time where you're imitating others and using your imagination and things of that sort. So yeah, I think it's important that children have a proper representation of people and styles and hair that look like them.
I think seeing more representation of natural hair also presents natural hair as elegant and professional. So if I think about those those words convey different settings. And it kind of seems like when you see more natural hair, it seems like natural hair can fit into the elegant setting and the professional setting. So of course, I think that more representation definitely allows natural hair to be seen in more social arenas and even, like I said, professional arenas and elegant arenas. And yeah.
Great. And before we move on to the next question, I know Dr. Hicks has been referencing different types of hair, and we kind of talked about relaxers. Dr. Hicks, could you start just maybe to educate our audience a little bit more about the different types of hair, and if any of the other panelists want to talk about relaxers, or maybe those things that not everyone will understand that maybe doesn't have that natural hair, just so we can all follow along when you talk about that. So Dr. Hicks, if you would like to start just about the different hair types, and Shavonda and Destinee, if you have any comments on just kind of the specifics to more black natural hair, that would be great.
So generally, the hair typing system is 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you're type 1 hair, that means you have straight hair. Your hair is bone straight. It doesn't curl when you wet it. It's straight. When it dries, it's straight. Type 1 is straight hair. Type 2 is like a wavy hair. You know, you have a little bit of wave. You know, when you straighten, you can probably easily straighten it with a few passes of the flat iron, but you don't have to part it in little small sections to get it straight. So it's like a loose wave. Type 3 is a curly hair, a loose curl, larger curls, and they typically kind of hang. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of people who are mixed race, they have type 3 hair. Not every mixed race person has type 3 hair, but a lot of mixed race people have type 3 hair. The celebrities that come to mind, if you remember Tia and Tamara, the twins from Sister Sister, they have type 3 hair. And then type 4 hair is like the Afro texture hair, the shrunken, very small, coily curls that's very compact and it kind of stands up. That would be considered type 4 hair. So, and what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, because I know you had mentioned relaxers and maybe something else that's usually used on, you know, type of hair that you may have, or so if you could just explain more about that, just so our attendees are educated, who don't know what relaxers do, things like that.
Okay. So relaxers is a chemical-based cream that is used to straighten your hair. and typically use, I mean, type 3 hair, they can, sometimes depending on their texture, they may not be able to take a chemical relaxer. A flat iron can probably get their hair straight and they'll be fine. A flat iron a flat iron can work on type 4 hair, but the relaxer just kind of makes things easier if you want to make your hair straight all the time. So a relaxer is like a perm. It's like similar to a perm that will make like a white person's hair curly. It's the reverse. So this would be like a chemical that would make a black person's hair straight. It's typically done like every 6 to 8 weeks or so. The first time you'll put it on all of your hair, you'll let it sit for some minutes and then you'll wash it out, condition, and your hair will be straight. You'll still have to like use like a flat iron or something like that after it dries and blow dry it, but it'll just make things a lot easier if you wear your hair straight all the time. Yeah, that, I think that's
yeah, thank you. That explanation really helps. And yeah, Shavonda and Destinee, I don't know if you had anything else to add. I just think this education part is really helpful for our attendees and just to understand, you know, how these different type of hairstyles, like how you style them and how you kind of take care of your natural hair. So yeah, if either of you have anything, otherwise I will move on to the next question. So you guys good? Okay, perfect. All right, so the next question was, this is kind of a situation that happened in 2020. So in West Virginia, the Crown Act was originally presented in the House by Delegate Danielle Walker on January 23rd, 2020. Just a month earlier, 14-year-old Matthew Moore had been told by his varsity basketball coach to cut off his dreadlocks or get benched. Matthew was forced to modify his appearance to fit into an accepted mold of how a member of the team should look. How has this type of hair-based discrimination in society evolved over time, or has it?
So I think this kind of hair-based discrimination has evolved into a practice that is intended to keep Black Americans and people of color from accomplishing elite tasks, and it's supposed to keep them out of certain spaces as well. So to me, I kind of understand it as, of course, oppression, but kind of like a modern day segregation, because it's intended to keep us out of certain spaces. It's further normalized when we say things like we need to change our hair to fit into certain spaces. It's normalized within ourselves and within society.
Yeah, Destinee, thank you for the explanation. So for our next question, are there times when you feel judged because of your hair at work, and how do you deal with these situations?
Go ahead, Shavonda.
I spoke to this earlier with just some of the experiences that I've had in the workplace. And I mean, I think just the advice that I would say with how I've dealt with it is that you have to continue to be your authentic self. I mean, that's really the only solution. And you show up and, you wear your natural hair, and you wear, as Dr. Hicks mentioned, the colors in your hair, your braids, whatever it is that you feel, you want to be in a space where, you're contributing, you're giving your all. And that really is the only way to do it, is to be confident, despite anything that you might be experiencing, and just to try to work through that. And hopefully you might be in a workplace where there's channels, or, there's others, administrators, or people that are open to hearing and putting certain practices and policies in place, that's allowing and embracing diversity and inclusion. But if not, then, you be the advocate for that type of change, in your workplace, and don't be afraid to take that initiative.
I've never felt judged at work about my hair, but I am always cognizant of how my hair is perceived. There have been times when I've had bad hair days and it's just like, oh my gosh, my hair is a mess. And honestly, I just want to wear my African print head wrap and go to a meeting. But then I have to think about, okay, who am I meeting with today? You know, and run down my whole schedule before I can even, you know, this is what Shavonda was talking about. You have to think about these things, and it's taken away from your task that you have to do at work. And it's just like, okay, well, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my hair. Do I just throw it in a puff or what? But, you know, African hair wraps, that's part of my culture. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing an African hair wrap, but I'm cognizant of that's probably not something I want to wear to, you know, X, Y, or Z meeting, depending on who I'm meeting with. So, so yeah, I am very cognizant, but I've never had, you know, an employer or anyone tell me, you know, you can't wear your hair like that, or that's inappropriate. I've never had that experience, but I do, even though no one has actually told me like I'm judging you for X, Y, and Z, but I'm just very cognizant. I'm just very cognizant of how I wear my hair. If I have a presentation, I'm generally probably like in a bun or some type of pinned up style. If I'm meeting with students, I'm generally more relaxed. So it really just depends. And I think that's probably, I don't know, that may be common just for any person, depending on, you know, how you look, how you decide to wear your hair, how you dress based on your meetings and events and things of that sort. So to answer the question, no, I haven't been judged, but I am very cognizant of how I look and how I show up in different spaces.
And Dr. Hicks, I think some of it is the nonverbal experiences as well. Like, you know, you may not have someone that actually says something regarding your hair, but it's, you know, the stares or just, you know, some of those things that you're experience with your hair.
Yeah, well, I do get a lot of questions. If I made a big switch up, if I made a big switch up, you know, tomorrow I have like long burgundy hair, then yeah, I would definitely get a lot of questions about it. Like, oh, you dyed your hair? Or I didn't know your hair was that long. And it's just like, I really don't want to tell you that this is a wig, but I just say, oh yeah, I had to switch it up, and I just kind of leave it vague, you know.
Okay, so the next question is, do you have any suggestions or advice for women wanting to wear their natural hair to work, but may feel intimidated by coworkers or supervisors?
I think the first thing you can do in this situation is to explore why you feel how you feel. And in that exploring process, there's a lot of self-awareness and self-reflection. And after the exploring process is done, I think that the next step would be to cultivate superior thinking. And by that, I mean develop proactive solutions to your problems and the way that you feel, so that when you do arrive back in these spaces, you have a way to handle not only how you feel internally, but whatever is going on externally as well. I think something else that's important to do is to surround yourself with other women who experience the same thing that you do, because you can learn from them and you can engage in dialogue, how I mentioned earlier. And it's very motivating, inspiring, uplifting when you re-enter those spaces. Again, you can refer back to whatever knowledge that you learned from interacting with people who identify as similar things as you, and it could be very helpful, I think.
Yeah, I think if you really want to wear your hair natural to work, then wear your hair natural to work. I mean, I'm all about just in life in general, there are going to be some things that are uncomfortable, but do it afraid. That's kind of like my motto, do it afraid. Even if your voice shakes, even if you feel uncomfortable, just do it afraid. And if there really is an issue with your employer, with you wearing your natural hair, and that's what you want to do, then maybe you should reevaluate if that's even a safe space for you to show up to work to every day. But at the end of the day, do what makes you feel comfortable, do what makes you feel confident, and what's authentic to you. That would be my advice, is do you.
So before we move on to the Q&A section, do you all have any more remarks you would like to share about your natural hair or anything like that?
So I will say that when Lauren and Kai contacted me about this panel, I told you guys I normally wear wigs in in the winter. So I was thinking like, oh, well, I'm going to be in my wig. Well, I'm going to have to switch my hair. So I had to think about how I was going to wear my hair here and try to plan out how I was going to do my hair, because I'm normally in wigs or some type of protective style. That's not a bun, but where my hair is like completely covered. But we worked it out. So here I am.
Well, thank you all for answering those questions. So now we will move on to the audience Q&A section. If you would like to ask your question yourself, please just comment your name in the chat and we will call on you to unmute yourself. But also, if you don't feel comfortable asking your question, you can private message me, Kai, and I can ask it for you. So when you go to the chat, you'll click the little arrow and select Kai when you direct message me. And then please indicate if the question is for a specific panelist or for all of them. Ashley, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
First, I want to say thank you guys for having this event. I love wearing my natural hair. That's all I wear. And just hearing you guys talk about natural hair in the workplace, especially since I'll be graduating soon, it's really uplifting, and I love to hear you guys' stories. So thank you for that. My question is, what does your natural hair mean to you? And just being your authentic self in the workplace, and how does that impact your work environment as a whole when you're your authentic self?
For me, my natural hair has all of my love because it is my creative expression. So by all of my love, I mean the way that I nurture and care for it, the products that I use in it, the money that I spend on the products that I use in it. I try not to be lazy on wash days and when I'm wrapping up my hair at night. I try to get regular professional maintenance. I have a lot of love for my hair, so I give it a lot of care. There was something else I wanted to mention, but I forgot. So if it comes back, I'll unmute.
I agree with Destinee and everything she just said. I love my hair. I wear several different hairstyles. I constantly watch YouTube videos. I learn new styles. I'm not afraid to try them. I've done everything from Bantu knots to flexi rods to perm rods to twists without a rod to twist with a rod without braids. And so I spend a lot of time. I appreciate it. I love it. And I think for me, just the inspiration that I see in, younger women and my daughters that I feel look up to me, it means more to me than, anything else, even like professional career aspirations, anything. Like the fact that I feel it helps them to love, embrace themselves and be authentic with themselves, like, means everything.
If I'm being completely honest with you, Ashley, I don't love my hair every day. There are some days where I'm just like, oh, I wish my hair was a little bit thicker, a little bit fuller in these areas, or oh, it's time for me to clip my ends, or whatever. I don't always love it every day, but one thing I do love about my hair is the versatility that natural hair can give you. And Destinee talked about it. You know, you could rock your hair on a red carpet and look stunning with your natural hair. You can go into the boardroom. You can go on a date. However, like just the versatility of all the different hairstyles that you can wear. Whether that's, you know, your buns or your afro, your twist out or your braid out or all of that stuff. I just love the versatility. So it makes it easy when I don't love my hair today, but guess what? I have so many options to make it beautiful and how I want it to look. Here we go. What am I going to choose today? So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Great. So our next question is, oh, sorry, Destinee, were you going to say something? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to add in one last tidbit the thing that I had forgot earlier. So a part of like what my natural hair means to me is that not very long ago, I got a silk press done. And a silk press is when you go to a salon, you get your hair washed, they blow dry it for you, and then they straighten it for you either with a flat iron or with a pressing comb. And a pressing comb is a metal comb that you usually would put on the stove, but they now have electric ones, and you use the comb to straighten your hair. So I recently got a silk press, and it's not as silky anymore, which is why it's in the bun today. But since Sunday, I have been waiting and hoping and just excited to wash my hair. I cannot wait till Thursday so I can wash my hair because I'm just excited to play in it. I'm excited to do a twist out. I miss my curls. And that's just a part of what my natural hair means to me. It means looking forward to doing it. It means looking forward to other people seeing it. It's the excitement of trying new hairstyles and looking forward to new appointments and things like that. So that's just a part of what it means to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Destinee. I love hearing all of your stories and, you know, kind of your struggles, but also, you know, what you love about your natural hair. I just love your honesty and openness with that. So now we have a question from Sunny. So Sunny, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question to the panelists.
Hi guys, thank you so much for doing this. It's been really, really good to just learn about everything that you've been talking about, and just to think about things that I probably wouldn't think about otherwise. But I am an HR major graduating in May. And so I was wondering that as an HR professional, how can I work to make all employees feel equal no matter how they look, and then work past those unconscious biases that maybe I don't even realize that I am like thinking of people differently than they should be.
That is such a great question, Sunny. And I don't want to speak for everybody because everybody's experience is different. So I don't have a general explanation that I can give you or tips, but I can just tell you what I would like if you were my manager, if you were my manager at Human Resources. For me, it's a lot more comfortable to show up to work because natural hair and just hair in the Black community is so versatile. I don't really like the attention that I get from hair. So I don't know, again, I can't speak for everybody and, you know, someone else may feel different, but showing up to work outside of just your hair looks nice compliment, that's pretty much all I really want. Like, I don't want to spend a lot of conversation on, you know, how did I get my hair like this? What did you do to it? How did you make it look like this? We would really have to have like a relationship outside of work where we're like going to lunch, like you're a coworker that I like go to lunch with and stuff like that, where we have like that close relationship. But just in general, you know, water cooler conversation, I don't like to really talk about my hair because it's just something I just don't want to be the focus in the workplace. So if you were my manager, I wouldn't want, outside of just a compliment of your hair looks nice, and even that's not necessary, I don't really want to discuss hair.
I would add that as an HR manager, you know, making sure that you include diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of your practices and policies as much as possible. If you think about like the onboarding process for new hires, you know, if there's a new hire orientation, look for ways that you can incorporate, you know, diversity and inclusion in those settings. Your website, like recruitment of positions, You know, what are you displaying on your website as an employer? You know, at times you can see on some websites where there's career paths laid out for different positions. What type of individuals are you displaying on the website? You know, do you reflect an inclusive culture, you know, in your advertisement and, you know, recruiting? And I do think that HR plays a really critical role. You know, leave policies, personnel related issues. It's just such a wide variety, but just making sure that you have a diverse scope on those activities it would be very helpful.
And obviously, hopefully you're not hiring somebody based on their hair. I hope I didn't need to say that today.
Yeah, one thing I'll add, at like a prior institution that I worked at, in their search process, they actually utilize like equity fellows or equity advisors that was added to each of the search committees, just to make sure that that committee wasn't, you know, didn't have those biases represented through the interviewing process and weren't excluding other individuals because of hair, because of appearance. So employing just different strategies that you can throughout each of those processes, you know, recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and even in your policies for existing employees, just having that diverse scope.
Our next question is, this is a question for the whole panel. What are your thoughts on Black women having colorful hair as opposed to white women having colorful hair in the workplace?
I really don't have thoughts with Black women versus white women and colorful hair in the workplace. I think whatever the standard is, it just needs to be upheld with everyone. So depending on, I understand that some professions have different dress codes or whatever. As long as they're not discriminatory toward a certain group, to me, that's where the issue is. When there's a different standard for some than others. That's where the issue is. But, you know, especially like in higher education, well, I'm like considered in academic affairs. But before, when I was in student affairs, you know, student affairs is very relaxed, very, you know, welcoming. You know, it's not uncommon for your student activities advisor to have purple hair. But it's an issue if if you know a woman of color has her hair purple. That's where the issue is, if the standard is different. But I don't really have a strong stance one way or another based on race. It's more about the culture of the workplace, and whatever that standard is, just being the same for everybody.
Perfect. Yeah. Unless Shavonda or Destinee, unless you have anything to add to that, we'll move on to the next question. Good. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hicks. So our next question, Callie, you can unmute yourself and ask the panelists.
Thank you. So you guys kind of talked about how, like, what your favorite protective styles were. But what is like your favorite natural hairstyles that you like to wear to work?
My favorite natural hairstyle that I like to wear to work is a twist out. So that is what I'm looking forward to doing on Thursday. And so what a twist out consists of is you want to do it on clean hair. So you want to wash your hair first, and do your conditioning and all of your mask and everything. And after all of that is done, you're going to take small sections and you're going to twist each piece of your hair like Miss Shavonda described earlier. So for me, that entire twist out process takes about 2 hours. And the wash, condition, mask, plus the twist out for me is between 3 to 4 hours. So it's a pretty long process, but my favorite natural hairstyle that I can wear in the workplace. So yeah.
I would agree. My favorite natural hairstyle is also a twist out. It's easy, it's simple, and usually outside of like wearing a wig, if my hair is going to be out, when I wash my hair, I start off with a twist out to begin with. Like I rarely do a wash and go. Well, okay, I take that back. In the summer, I do like to do wash and goes, especially when my hair is cut short. I really like wash and goes because they're easy, they're simple, and they keep me cool in the summer. But yeah, a twist out normally, like even my hair is in a bun when I wash my hair. I think I washed my hair last night. I twisted it out. It starts off as a twist out, which is just doing the individual twist, and then I undo it, and then I put it in a bun. The reason why I start off with a twist out for a lot of my hairstyles is because it stretches the hair. So again, I have the type 4 hair. So my hair, when it's wet, it's like a short, like curly little afro. But then, I can pull it down and it comes down here. But when it's wet, it's all the way up here and it's very short and tight. So when I do the twist out, it stretches the hair so I can pull it up in a bun, or I can wear like something fun and funky, or, I can wear it like stretched out where it kind of hangs a little bit over my shoulder. So twist out is probably my favorite, but I do like a wash and go when my hair is short.
And a twist out is my favorite as well. However, as I mentioned, I do like to try other styles. So for instance, this style I'm wearing now was achieved with plexi rods. And my hair is type 4 as well. It's very thick. I have a lot of strands on my hair. So sometimes it can take a really long time for my hair to dry. I typically air dry my hair. I don't like to sit under hair dryers. So I do have to be careful with the style that I choose, because at times overnight may not be long enough for my hair to dry. And then that creates another process where it might not last as long. I have to redo it during the week and may not have as much time to really dedicate to it. But with twist outs, I know what I'm going to get typically, because my routine is pretty much the same. But so yeah, twist out's my favorite, or rods.
Okay, our next question, Kiara, if you want to ask yours.
So mine was kind of similar to the hair color one. I just admonish you, Ashley, for your boldness and just wearing, you like you were talking about earlier, your blue hair and all of this other stuff. And so my question was, like, I'm okay with braids and sew-ins, but I feel like the story of ghetto is so tagged to women with women that are colored, that wear colored hair. And so my reservation is, like, in the business world, it's like people's first impression is not how the services that you offer, or how you carry yourself, but it's literally what you look like, and that will depict. And so I'm just like, you kind of commented on it earlier about you don't have a say on the, just as long as it's equal with amongst everybody. But I just was wondering, I'm just scared to do it. I want to do it. I'm just scared to do it. And so I think it's just, what is the boldness? How did you get to the point where you were like, I'm just gonna be me regardless, because it is a different transition where we're going into like the baby boomers coming out, and the more conservative people are coming out, and more inclusivity is progressing. And so, I'm just kind of scared. Like, I don't want to take my chances of missing a good job just because of the color of my hair.
Well, to be honest, the perception is gonna be there. People are probably gonna judge you. So whether it's right or wrong, that is the reality. I have not worn my blue hair to work. I typically reserve my blue hair for when I go, like I call it my out of town hair, when I go on trips and stuff like that. But to work, I have worn like a goldish, blondish color, number 30 color hair. I have worn like a burgundy color hair to work. I'm trying to think, are there any other colors? I think those are the colors I kind of dabble with at work, because again, I don't like the attention. So I like to look cute and I like to switch it up, but I don't want all the hula about it. So blue hair will bring a lot of attention to work, and I just I don't want to deal with that. But if I'm out and about, I don't mind it if I'm like, when it's not about work, if I'm like at the mall and somebody stops me, that doesn't bother me. But so yeah, I think the judgment is probably going to be there, whether you like it or not, or whether it's appropriate or not. Again, back to just do whatever makes you feel comfortable and confident. And if blue hair is what makes you is gonna make you show up the best version of yourself, then you wear that blue hair. But if you're gonna wear it and it's gonna make you clamor and like, oh, I don't even know, then I probably wouldn't do it if it's not gonna make you feel confident and bold and ready. So.
All right, so we'll go to the next question then. Danny G, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so before I even want to say my question, I just want to say it's like really inspiring listening to you guys. I really wish I was able to have this conversation when I was younger in elementary school, like you guys mentioned earlier about the children. It just really brought me back to my past and like how the experiences I had growing up. So listening to you guys and hearing how confident and how like, just how bold you guys are, it's really inspiring to hear that. So my question is, although there's the Crown Act to protect individuals from discrimination based on their natural hair in the workplace, do you feel like more needs to be done? And if so, what do you suggest?
I think that hair discrimination needs to be sufficiently addressed when those problems arise. And for me, I look to people in the role of HR and diversity coordinators or directors or managers to address them, because that's kind of part of why their role exists. I think that knowledge on the type of hair discrimination, if knowledge on the type of hair discrimination is more regularly known amongst an organization, amongst a company, I think that can also be helpful. And what I mean by the types of hair discrimination, I mean overt and covert discrimination. So overt are the open discriminations of saying that if you don't change your hair, you won't be able to have this job, or you won't be able to participate in graduation or prom, or just different things. But the covert ones are the ones that are like, can I touch your hair, or touching someone's hair without even asking them. All of those things need to be addressed by the diversity managers and by HR to begin to make that social transformation that we need to see in society, the way that we're beginning to see it now.
I think that it's important that that pretty much every workplace So we said 7 states have enacted the Crown Act. I feel like the Crown Act should be, you know, a federal law. Let's start there. But then, you know, to what Destinee is saying, you know, I feel like all the human resources departments and organizations should uphold the protection of hair, but also even just getting down to just your actual departments that you're working in. I feel like the more diverse we can get our organizations, the less these topics would be an issue, because it would just be so normal and so accepted. It wouldn't really be a thing. And I feel like if we just kind of get to the core of the issue, which is there's a lack of diversity. And with the lack of diversity and the lack of underrepresentation, or the underrepresentation, that creates a lot of problems, and a lot of things are either getting swept under the rug or being said that I didn't mean it like that, or whatever, because, for lack of a better term, because of ignorance, because, you know, people haven't been exposed to it, it's new to them, it's whatever. But once we start diversifying our organizations more, I really just feel like a lot of this wouldn't be as big of an issue. It'll probably still be there, but it won't be as prevalent as it is right now.
I absolutely agree, Dr. Hicks. I definitely think that it's the only way really to address the issue is for more diversity and more representation within the departments. I've experienced, you know, situations in the workplace where individuals made certain comments about my hair personally. And it was communicated to higher levels, HR, the Equal Opportunity Office. And the response, the employee that made the comments, the response was, oh, it was only a joke, or I didn't mean it like that, or I really meant no harm. And ultimately, the decision was that it was like a performance related issue. And unfortunately, it was not a performance related issue. Like, it's, you know, this should have been something that was addressed more openly. There should have been other responses and practices or something put in place in response to that situation. And so I feel until there's more like diversity within organizations, like that is the response 90% of the time that you're going to receive. And it's really unfortunate, but I think it does take more diversity within the departments, and definitely amongst administration, because even trying to express the impact or the harm of the situation is difficult to someone who just may not even, just can't relate or can't understand how that might feel and the impact that it has.
Yes, thank you all for your answers. So for our next question, someone asked, Dr. Hicks mentioned earlier she liked to do everything her mom did as a child. Do the panelists have an idol/mentor that motivate them to maintain their natural hairstyles?
My mom was one person that I looked up to as a child. I still look up to today. But in regards to natural hair, she doesn't have natural hair. But really, when I first went natural, the person that I was looking to was Mahogany Curls on YouTube. For those naturalistas on the line, if you all follow YouTube naturalistas, she went natural around the same time that I went natural. I think she went natural in 2009. And my hair was natural, I think, up until second or third grade, maybe second grade was when I got my first relaxer. And I had a relaxer up through my college years. And then right when I graduated college, I stopped relaxing, but I still straightened my hair. So I never really saw like what my natural hair texture really was until I never really saw it outside of, you know, first and second grade. So I was following her on YouTube. I was thinking about, you know, maybe I should just cut all my hair off just to see what my natural hair would look like. What is it under this relaxer? And Mahogany Curls was one of the women that I followed on YouTube. And now she has type 3 hair. And I thought I thought that when I went natural, I was going to have type 3, and that was not the case. So then I still love watching her videos and stuff. So then I had to kind of switch to other YouTubers who had type 4 hair, whose hair, you know, the styles will turn out the same way that my hair would be. And then the density thing is another thing on how thick your hair is. So, so yeah, I often look to a lot of YouTubers to kind of mimic their hair and their natural hair.
For me, the person that I look up to, her name is Alana Simone. She is also a YouTuber. And she has a pretty high presence on Instagram as well. So for me, I look to Alana because she, first off, to me, her natural hair is just beautiful. Her curls, the way that she styles it is just beautiful. But she has what I envision to have, which is more versatility in doing natural hairstyles. So she is able to do a slick back bun and a high bun and a twist out and a wash and go. A wash and go is just something I still have not been able to get. And a wash and go is when you wash your hair and you put your curling products in it and then you go. So for me, I just can't get it. I can't get the high bun natural hair. So for natural hair, it's very hard to slick it all up or to slick it all back. It's a pretty long process. For me to put my hair in a low bun is like a 30-minute process. And seeing her do it, it just looks effortlessly for her, although I know that it's not. But it's just so beautiful. How Dr. Hicks mentioned earlier, she does sometimes add like extensions, curly extensions to her hair to make the bun more dense, and you can't even tell the difference at all. And so I just look to her for all my inspiration. And one day I'm going to be able to do all these different styles. And my natural hair portfolio is just going to be so expansive.
And for me, I follow several YouTubers as well. The person I look up to most is Natural, N-A-P, Churl, 85. And I love her. I mean, her hair is, I mean, she has type 4 hair. She has really thick, beautiful hair. She has figured out the products that work for her. She actually formed her own product line, and those products are amazing. But I mean, I would say in addition to her, just, you know, just other Black women that I come into contact with, like being here talking with Destinee and Dr. Hicks, and, you know, just other women is just, it's really inspiring.
So our next question is, are there any phrases that you hear in the workplace concerning your natural hair that aren't meant to be offensive, but personally make you feel uncomfortable?
So when I first went natural, I did the big chop. And the big chop means you start from scratch and you cut your hair off. It's like not a buzz cut, but close enough. So I had very short hair, like Amber Rose, if you all know who she is. That's how my hair was when I first went natural. And I remember I was in grad school. And I remember when I went to work, I was nervous about going to work because I'm like, again, I didn't want all the attention, but I mean, I just cut all my hair off to, you know, not even an inch of hair. And I remember there was another woman who worked there. She was a Black woman. She said, oh my God. She was like, okay, I want to see this hair because I heard you were bald headed. And that really turned me off. I don't like the term bald headed when talking about women with short hair. natural or not, black or not. I just don't like that term. So I would say bald headed. That's like a no for me. Nappy, I feel like everybody should know that's a no-no. I haven't experienced that one, but that's a no-no. But I feel like bald head is probably one that people don't think is offensive, but that's offensive.
I think referring to your hair or black hair as an object is extremely offensive. You know, with the Zoom world nowadays, you know, virtual backgrounds and things can make, you know, depending on your lighting, your hair can maybe visually, for me, just may not look how I might want it to appear on the screen. And, you know, I've heard statements like, "Oh, I love your hat." You know, so just referring to your hair as an object or something that it's not can be offensive.
So for our next question, when teaching young girls about taking care of their hair, are there certain styles or things you recommend them doing when going for a job interview or professional setting, similar to how Dr. Hicks wore a wig for her interview at ISU, but then wore her natural hair on the first day?
I mean, absolutely. I think that's a big one. Just setting the tone from the beginning, and appearing like as your most authentic and your confident self. For me, you know, I recently changed positions and I had been at my prior institution for many years. And so it was just important to kind of put that, you know, that very first step from the interview process. You know, this is me. And, you know, even throughout that interview process, there were several steps. And, you know, I represented myself in the different things that you would experience in the workplace. So whether it's curls, whether it's a twist out, whether it's a bun, I wore all those through the process just to make it clear that this is me, this is what you receive. And I need you to recognize me for my contributions and, you know, my skill set and take the focus off of my hair. So just setting that tone from the very beginning I think is absolutely key.
All right, so we'll go on to the next question then. So Tylen has a question if you want to unmute yourself and ask the panelists.
Hi. So my question is, what are some tips that you all have on combating natural hair envy? So being that many times when starting like your natural hair journey, as Dr. Hicks and Miss Shavonda has said, you know, you start watching YouTube videos. And I know when I started watching YouTube videos thinking like, oh, she made it look easy. And, you know, really setting those kind of unrealistic expectations for my hair, not knowing its capabilities. So how do you kind of fight that frustration that maybe you get in the early stages of not knowing?
What I'm about to say sounds like super shallow or petty. I don't know. But I try to like, I love watching women whose hair doesn't look like mine, just seeing what their hair does and how it moves. And I love all of that. But when I'm trying to mimic a hairstyle, I want to look at women's hair whose most closely like identifies with mine. And for me, like the biggest thing is I know what to do with type 4 hair and how my hair will probably turn out, or how a twist will probably turn out on type 4 hair. But it's the density issue with me. Like I feel like my hair is like low density. So like I try to look at other women whose hair is either my density or lower. Because if it's lower, then I know that mine is probably going to turn out, you know, it's going to look a little bit better than I thought it would be, or turn out a little bit better in regards to how I want. When I say better, I use that term loosely, and how I want it to look, or how my expectations are just, I'm more likely to exceed my expectations looking at someone who has a lower density hair than me than looking at someone who has higher density hair and expecting me to get that same result. So for me, I look at women whose hair, not only the texture is similar to mine, but also the density is either right around my level or lower, for me not to even get caught up in the hair envy, and for me to actually feel like attaining this style is realistic and attainable.
I think at times you also just have to disconnect and, you know, shut off the YouTube videos and just figure out and do what works for you. Because there is so much out there. And having, you know, the hair envy is common. But you just have to shut it off and just understand that, you know, hair is different. You know, even when I do my hair and the same process, I sometimes get different results. You know, I might switch up the product because I spend a lot of money, so it might come out looking different than what I had done previously. And so just understanding that, you know, you may not get the same results as someone else. You may not even get the same results twice on yourself. And, you know, and then just disconnecting from the YouTubes periodically.
And our last question for tonight is, what is your favorite natural hair product line?
For me, it depends on the hairstyle. However, I will say my favorite line as of right now is Melanin Hair Care by Natural 85.
My favorite line right now is the Miel. I'm not sure if it's Miel Organics, the pomegranate and honey line. That line gives me everything I'm looking for. It gives me the shine. It gives me the moisture. The style will last the whole week in my head. It gives me everything that I'm looking for. So that is my favorite line right now.
My favorite line hasn't changed for 10 years. I've tried everything under the sun, but I always go back to Kinky Curly. They are the OG, and that Kinky Curly Not Today leave-in conditioner is magic in the bottle. And that styling custard for a wash and go, you can't tell me anything with my wash and go. So.
All right, so perfect. That is all the time we have for questions. We're kind of creeping up on 8 p.m. So thank you to all our attendees for asking questions and our panelists for answering. So before we finish up and kind of make our last remarks, could we take a quick screenshot photo for the COB social media? If you do not want to be in the photo, that is totally fine. Just turn off your camera for this part real quick. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to do that, but otherwise everyone show your face and smile if you want to be in the photo, and I'll take a couple. So hold your smiles. I have to go to a couple screens. Okay, everybody ready? So, all right, smile. Perfect. Okay, let me take a couple. All right, smile guys, and one more screen. Thanks everybody, perfect. So yeah, check it out on the COB social media. You might see your face posted on there, so thanks everyone.
So let's give a huge thank you to our panelists, Shavonda, Destinee, and Dr. Hicks for being here with us tonight and sharing such insightful words with us this evening. A huge thank you also goes out to all of our attendees. This was a great way to kick off Business Week 2021. We think this was a very positive learning experience for everyone, and we hope you all enjoyed yourselves.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
All right, so yep, Maggie's pulling up the PowerPoint. So the next slide, this is going to be how you all can connect with the panelists on LinkedIn and reach out if you have any questions. So we'll leave this slide up for like 15 seconds or so. Just take a picture of this if you would like to reach out to any of the ladies. You can do that and take a screenshot, because I know a big part of Business Week is that networking and connecting with our speakers and panelists. Of course, it's a little different with the virtual environment, so you can't really stay after the event as easily and talk to the ladies. So here's their contact info. So again, just give everyone a few more seconds to take a screenshot or picture of that. And all right, we will now move on to the next slide. So this was only the first of many Business Week events to come this semester. So we have our corporate social responsibility case competition and trivia night coming up in February. So those will come up sooner than we think. And then our official Business Week will be March 22nd through the 25th. So our keynote speaker for our D&I night on March 24th will be Victor Terry, the Vice President of Public Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer at State Farm. So we're very excited to have him. And of course, check out all these events. Again, we'll just leave the slide up for a few seconds if you want to take a picture of that. But Kai will talk on the next slide about our website and the business College of Business social media, which you'll definitely want to follow and keep in tabs with, so you can check out all these great events. So this is going to be the Business Week schedule. So just a couple more seconds there. Take your pictures if you want to write that down. And perfect. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide now.
So to stay up to date with all things Business Week, follow the College of Business on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And make sure you visit our website at business.illinoisstate.edu/businessweek. So once again, we just want to say thank you all for being here and spending your evening listening to these great panelists. And we hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
Bye, everyone. Yep, attendees, feel free to leave the Zoom if you would like. Panelists, if you want to just stay on a second with our Business Week team. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that everyone then?
That's all. Yeah, I think that's all.
It says Dr. Beggs is still on.
There's one more.
She probably walked away for a second.
Yeah, she might have just stepped away.
That's what I think.
We're not talking about anything super confidential. Right?
Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, so again, thank you, Dr. Hicks and Shavonda and Destinee, seriously so much. This was a great event. I know that we got to the Q&A earlier than we thought, but that's okay. It worked out really well, and I'm glad we had a lot more questions that were able to be asked, so it worked out perfectly. So all of you have already given us your addresses, so we will have some thank you gifts for you all that will be sent out soon, just so you expect that. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Kai, or anybody